Welcome back across Nevada to Face to Face. We're talking about the effort to legalize marijuana. Joining me now, a retired professor from the UNR Medical School. He says the war on drugs is not only lost, it's causing more people to turn to drugs. Dr. Stephen Fry is the author of We Really Lost This War, 25 Reasons to Legalize Drugs. He joins me to discuss the effort to legalize marijuana. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me in my first month in Las Vegas.
Your first month in Las Vegas, and where else do you want to go face to face? I hear that all the time.
This is my first choice.
But seriously, sir, from what I understand from reading some background materials, you came to this crusade, as it were, fairly late in life. How did that happen?
Well, I was treating marijuana patients legally in California in the 90s. So the surgeons who had failed patients who were still having chronic pain wanted me to take care of them because they like to do surgery, and I write prescriptions. I'm a doctor. And out of desperation, these people were addicted to Vicodin and everything else. I started using medical marijuana because you cannot die from it. It is the safest recreational, over-the-counter, or prescription drug in history. And to my amazement, 2/3 to 3/4 of the people got mild to moderate to significant improvement. Consequently, I kept using it, and when I moved to Nevada in the medical school, did more research, and I had a little radio talk show like yours, but not quite as good.
Thanks for saying that.
Called Politics and Health for 3 months, and then I started discovering about all the other drugs. And our war on drugs is not a failure; it's a monumental fiasco.
But you've written some fairly dramatic language about it. I mean, you really have. I mean, you really think it's worse than terrorism in some ways.
Well, we fund terrorism with the war on drugs, as a matter of fact, because the United States has 5% of the world's population, but we use 60% of the world's drugs, more than the rest of the world combined, as a result of our war on drugs. If we cannot keep 1 million illegal immigrants out of the country, and we cannot even keep drugs out of prison, please tell me how we're going to keep them off the street.
There's no question that it can help people who are sick. You've mentioned that, and you've treated people. But it's one thing to do that. It's another thing. It does impair people. And government websites are full of statistics that connect marijuana to dangerous driving. Let me just read you something. I know you're going to react to this. A study of over 3,000 fatally injured drivers in Australia showed that when marijuana was present in the blood of the driver, they were much more likely to be at fault for the accident. And the higher the THC concentration, the more likely they were to be culpable. Research shows that impairment increases significantly when marijuana use is combined with alcohol. You heard Mr. Mueller talk about that synergy. Studies have found that many drivers who test positive for alcohol also test positive for THC, making it clear that drinking and drug driving are often linked behavior.
Both the United States Highway Traffic Safety Commission and the New Zealand Traffic Safety Commission did detailed studies of emergency room data as well as simulators like pilots use, and determined that driving with marijuana alone is no more dangerous than driving with orange juice, except for the first 4 to 6 hours when you're acutely intoxicated. The reason for that is marijuana drivers drive a lot more slowly. So even if there are accidents, they're going to be much less toxic. Number one. Number two, let's compare not marijuana to the perfect driver who is a graduate of the Academy of the Nevada Highway Patrol. Let's compare marijuana to alcohol, which is catastrophic. And marijuana is the safest recreational drug by far. Now, when you combine it with alcohol, it's a problem.
Okay, let me just interrupt you for a second. I'm sorry, Doctor, but you're the expert on this. People drink alcohol. They are going to get impaired either very quickly or relatively quickly. But let me just finish my question here. Marijuana, from what I understand, I'm not being facetious, I really don't know that much about it, can affect people in very different ways, can't it?
It's the safest brain-altering recreational drug we have. Now, if we can agree that we're never going to get to zero, brains love to be intoxicated, from ants to elephants to people.
I found someone smoking a joint while they're driving. You're saying that that's going to be safe for every person?
I do not recommend that anyone smoke a joint while driving, and I think if they do, they should be arrested. But to have our whole legal system preoccupied with putting people in prison, and we have more people in prison in this country than any other country in the world, and the biggest cause of people in prison is substance abuse, predominantly marijuana. The war on drugs is a war on marijuana. It's catastrophic.
Let me ask you a question about this petition. I pointed out this loophole, and Mr. Schwartz says he's going to address it by lobbying afterwards to get it changed. This could be a serious problem. You're a doctor. You know how long it could stay in your blood?
Is that a problem as destroying someone's life by putting them in prison and making them an ex-felon? Will you answer me that question, please?
I thought it was rhetorical.
No, it's a real question. The question is it worse to put somebody in prison and destroy their life? First of all, 1/3 of prisoners are dead by age 45, because none of my medical school graduates wanted to work in a prison, and 2/3 of prisoners are rearrested within 3 years. Now, compared to that, this issue is minuscule. And that's what you have to look at, the big picture, John.
Well, it may be minuscule, but of course you should look at the big picture. But you still have to address it. You can't ignore it. It's there. I could go out and smoke pot on a Saturday night, and on Thursday get in an accident and be thrown in jail.
And if you smoke pot on a Saturday night, on Thursday the pot in your blood means that the accident was incidental, not caused by the pot.
And that may be true as a scientific fact.
Yes.
That's not what the law here says.
We have to change the law.
Yeah.
But let's not lose sight of how catastrophic our current drug policy is. It is incredible. We have more people in prison. It's devastating for kids. Mom does a little pot, dad does a little cocaine, we put them in prison. The kids go to foster care. So I said, what happens to the kids in foster care? I'm a researcher now. The kids in foster care have 4 times the death rate of kids who are not in foster care. And if they happen to age out, that's the term of what happens to kids when they get done with foster care, they don't have a mother and father that cares for them. What happens? They become street people and on drugs. The very thing we were trying to prevent, we have perpetuated.
So let's say we legalize marijuana, which you support.
Yes.
Are there any pitfalls in doing it? Is there a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it?
Yes, it needs to be controlled. They need to be sold just like alcohol. It's easier for teenagers in America to buy pot than to get alcohol or cigarettes.
And you don't think that then you create, to use this word again, a gateway to teenagers to start using drugs?
I'm so glad you asked. There's 3 independent studies, one by the Institute of Medicine of the National Institute of Health, one by the World Health Organization, and one by the British government. All 3 document that marijuana is absolutely not a gateway drug. And further proof of that is the use of marijuana has skyrocketed in the last 30 years. In the last 3 years, every year teenage marijuana use has gone up 1% in the last 30 days. Heroin and other addictions have stayed flat. If it were a gateway drug, you'd find the marijuana going up.
So you don't think teen use goes up if you legalize it?
It goes down. We have 5 times as much drug use in this country as the Netherlands, which has 33 years of huge success. 5 times as much. Portugal legalized 6 years ago. Their AIDS went down, their crime went down, their drug use went down. Switzerland gives free heroin and free needles to methadone-resistant heroin addicts. And what happens? After 4 years, 80% clean up their act. The only thing that works to reduce drug use is treatment, nothing else. Incarceration just destroys lives and wastes tax dollars.
We're out of time, Dr. Fry. Don't forget to sign the petition.
No question.
All right. Welcome to Las Vegas.
It's a pleasure.
Thanks for coming on the program. When we come back, we're going to have the final word on Friday. Back in a moment.